Hello, everybody. This is Pitch Gold Black here, and welcome to something pretty big that's going to happen with me and Doctor Who. Welcome to the beginning of me marathoning the 1960s era. This is mainly because I want to branch out in the Skulls General reviews, and hopefully in the fourth set, which I'm going to begin soon, hopefully. I'm going to be reviewing television stories as well as books in the Skulls General Review series as a whole. So I'm going to be marathoning every single 1960s story in preparation for that. And just in case you're wondering what television stories to expect, just in case you're wondering what television stories to expect from the Skulls General Reviews, I'm going to be reviewing near enough every single 1960s story, I hope, for the Skulls General Reviews. And hello, one viewer. Nearly every single 1960s story for the Skulls General Reviews, apart from Mission to the Unknown, Dalek's Master Plan, and Power of the Daleks, simply because I'm just not going to be reviewing those. So expect any of those 47 1960s stories to be reviewed in the Skulls General Reviews, and just random colour stories. One of the first colour stories of film I'm going to be reviewing is The City of Death. But I thought it'd be interesting to begin my 1960s era marathon by doing a live stream of myself watching both versions of An Unearthly Child episode 1 at the same time, which is going to be really interesting because I've got what I believe is the transmitted version of An Unearthly Child up on Dailymotion, and I've got the pilot's version of An Unearthly Child up on my computer with the DVD. And it's really interesting because the transmitted version is about 1 minute and 43 seconds shorter than the pilot version. So from Dailymotion, the transmitted version runs at 23 minutes and 23 seconds, and then the pilot version runs at 25 minutes and 6 seconds. So it's going to be interesting to see and in case you're wondering, I may take a photo partway through this stream for thumbnail's sake. So just in case you're wondering why I'm fiddling with my camera at some point during this stream, that is why. But anyways, let's begin this, which is going to be a very interesting live stream of me commencing my 1960s era marathon by watching both versions of An Unearthly Child at the same time. Check the lighting, face, and then we're going to begin. Going to play both of them at the same time in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. What's really interesting in the and I can hear myself on the actual live stream itself, which is not good. But as I was going to say, muting myself on the live stream, as I was going to say, there's an explosion sound effect in the pilot's version of An Unearthly Child. And that's interesting. The transmitted version of An Unearthly Child cuts the policeman walking up to shot with his torch. Extremely low quality version of An Unearthly Child episode 1 on Dailymotion, but it'll do. Like very low quality, below 144p. It's like every single pixel is 5 pixels. Gate just opened on the transmitted version. And gate just opened on the pilot version. And both Junkyard's versions are very different. The TARDIS has just come up on the transmitted version. And then the TARDIS has just come up on the pilot version. Low quality version of episode 1. Wow, it's not even framed properly. Really crappy VHS rip or something, the one I'm watching on Dailymotion. That was a freaky ass doll. School was just started up in transmitted version, and the written by Anthony Coburn title card thing has just popped up on the pilot version. This is really interesting so far. Just got to the school part on the pilot version. Yeah, that guy didn't. Did that guy show up in the transmitted version? I don't think he did. Partway through the conversation between Barbara and Ian in the transmitted version, and conversations just started in the pilot version near enough. Conversations just finished. Transmitted version and pilot version is just up to the junkyard part. First appearance of Susan in the transmitted version now. Music part's just started on Susan part on the pilot version. Interesting. I don't think the Barbara handed the book to Susan. I know she did in the transmitted version. Book appears to be a different prop, which is interesting. Yeah, book is a completely different prop by the looks of it. Yeah, the book Barbara handed Susan on the French Revolution in the pilot's version is a leather-bound version with like gold imprinted on the cover, whereas the one in the transmitted version is like an actual dust jacket book. So they use completely different props for the French Revolution book in both different versions of An Unearthly Child. Dust Jacket, one in the transmitted, and then a leather-bound one in the pilot. And the scene ends with Susan painting. All this frame splashes onto a page. I wonder if that is where the I don't know, theme tune came from. Just got to the car part with Barbara and Ian. Susan looking at the camera, and the transmitted version's already started up. One second. It's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes. Da 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 da. Anyways, let us resume. Car part in the pilot version and the transmitted version appeared 12 different seconds apart. About 10 seconds apart. Flashback scenes to the classroom just started in the transmit ND pilot version. Susan just went into the junkyard in the T version, transmitted. Barbara and Ian have just gotten out of the car in the transmitted version, T version. Flashbacks to the classroom are still happening in the P version. Susan just went into the junkyard in the P version, about a minute apart from, probably even more, from the T version. Just discovered the TARDIS in the T version. Barbara and Ian have just gotten out the car in the P version, again about a minute, possibly even two apart. I've just realised Susan Foreman and the junkyard is Foreman's junkyard. How have I not realised that? Anyways, Doctor just appeared on the T version. The reason why I'm leaning forward a bit is the cord on my headphone thing is much longer than my earphone one, which is sort of needed because PC's lower than my Chromebook. Ian and Barbara have discovered the TARDIS in the P version. I think I'm about a second out of sync, but then again, I'm really out of sync because it's two different versions of the episode. Doctor's just appeared in the P version. That's interesting. In the P version, when Susan calls out to the Doctor, in the P version, he opens the door, and then Susan's music from her little Walkman thing you see in the classroom plays. If it is a Walkman, it probably isn't, but might have happened in the T version. I don't know. They've just gone into the TARDIS in the T version. Well, TV rather. I'm trying to abbreviate as much as possible so it's easier. William Hartnell's a lot grumpier in performance, or the Doctor's a lot grumpier in the P version than in the T version. T version is much friendlier than the P version, which I think was part of why Verity Lambert wanted to do another reshoot of the episode in the first place, is because of William Hartnell's performance as the Doctor in the P version was they wanted it to be a bit more friendlier than it was in the P version. I think that's why Versa Lambert wanted to reshoot the pilot episode or first episode of An Unearthly Child, because the Doctor was a bit eviler, I guess you would say, in the P version. Yeah, when the door opened, there was a big sort of sound effect, like a whoosh, and a sort of synthesizer, sort of part when Barbara stumbled into the TARDIS in the P version, and the music on Susan's thing played when the doors were open, which didn't happen in the T version. So, sorry, again, spot the difference. It's very interesting. I just saw a shadow on the TARDIS wall there of one of the crew members. Wasn't of Susan, Barbara, Ian, or the Doctor. I just saw Karen in the top corner as well. Spot the difference and spot the flaws with pitch gold black. That's very interesting to know that they use completely different props for the French Revolution book in both versions, as I mentioned earlier. Probably the most fascinating thing about it all so far. And I think there was a sound effects in the T version where Ian and Barbara found out they can't get out the door of the TARDIS. Your arrogance is nearly as great as your ignorance. Great quote from the T version. I don't think I've ever seen the T version. Don't think I've ever seen the T version before, but I've definitely seen the P version before. Not 100% sure about the T version. Yeah, I don't remember Ian being shocked by the TARDIS console in the P version before, from previous watchings of it. The kidnapping, the takeoff of the TARDIS has just happened in the T version. And that wonderful special effects of the TARDIS taking off has just started to happen in a T version. And it reuses the Hartnell sequence in the T version. That's interesting. Might have done that in the P version as well, I think. audio was out of sync for the Ian Bean shocks on the TARDIS console, but still. Really interesting sound effects from the Radiophonic Workshop in the T version. Yeah, nice mixing of the Hartnell sequence in the T version. Oh, the cliffhanger is so good. Episode has just ended in the T version, and the TARDIS has just taken off in the P version. So, which is really interesting. Very interesting sound effects coming from the P version of the TARDIS taking off. And yes, the episode on the T version is just finished. As they use completely different sound effects of the TARDIS taking off down to what they did in the T version, in the P version. And the episode has just ended in the P version. Well, yes, I'm just noticing that the Hartnell theme is a lot more ethereal and surreal, I guess you would say, in the P version, which is really interesting. So yeah, overall, that was a really sort of interesting and sort of different experience of An Unearthly Child episode 1, watching both of them at the same time. I think the most interesting for me part of all of it for me personally was noticing that they had used different props for the French Revolution book in both different episodes, because in the trying to think what it was, in the P version, Susan was just handed a book sort of like this, where it was sort of a leather bound with the sort of text bossed onto it like that. Whereas in the T version, it was an actual sort of dust jacket book, which was interesting. But yeah, that was the sort of commencement stream of my 1960s era marathon. So yeah, I'm going to continue marathoning the 1960s era as of now. I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I think this is a really interesting and sort of different way of beginning my 1960s era live stream. So yeah, and that pretty much concludes this live stream. Select, vote, comment, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Pitch Gold Black, dematerializing.